After having a very disappointing overall season, the New York Rangers are in definite need of adding in some real impactful players in this upcoming offseason if this team truly wants to get back on track to potentially being a true Stanley Cup contender. And one position that this team definitely needs to address is that third line center spot. And one player who the team could target, who I think would be an incredible third line center for this team and would just provide such great depth overall for this squad, and that player is Sam Bennett of the Florida Panthers. And obviously, he is an upcoming unrestricted free agent, meaning he will hit free agency and could potentially sign with the Rangers. And with the Panthers having multiple UFAs like Aaron Ekblad, Brad Marchand, and of course Sam Bennett this offseason, as well as already giving out an extension to Carter Verhaeghe, which will pay him about an extra $3 million per season, there definitely is a pretty decent chance that a guy like Sam Bennett could possibly end up signing elsewhere, as that team is definitely going to be pretty tight with their cap. And with that being said, the Rangers are going to have some cap space available to go out there and make some impactful moves, and especially if you trade away a guy like Keandre Miller and or Chris Kreider, that it opens up even more cap space available for this team to make the necessary moves. And like I said, a third line center is an absolute must in this offseason. I think that's a definite need for this team, especially after obviously moving a guy like Mika Zibanejad over the wing, which I think he should definitely stay there after watching him, play on the wing for a decent sample size. I think he obviously played much better, and I'm not saying he's necessarily worth that $8.5 million contract, but he definitely played a lot better on the wing than he was playing at center. So I think keeping him on the wing there makes a lot of sense for this team, and unfortunately I don't really see a trade possibly happening with him having that full no move clause. So I wouldn't really count on a trade happening with Mika, at least this offseason. Maybe something happens and changes in the future, but more than likely this offseason, Mika is going to stay on this team, and having him on the wing there, that obviously provides you with having the 1-2 punch of JT Miller, Vincent Trocheck, and then your fourth line center is Sam Carrick. And you can have Johnny Brodzinski, let's say, as kind of that fifth center who can play, swing in that bottom six and kind of be a center here and there when he has to, if injuries kind of come into play. But if you go up there and add in a guy like Sam Bennett to be that third line center, who I think is a, number 2 caliber center, I mean, he definitely can be a second line center, but having him down there on that third line provides some incredible depth for this team. And then if injuries happen to guys like Vincent Trocheck or JT Miller, then you're bumping up a guy like Sam Bennett up into that top six there to be that, first, second line center, whichever kind of spot he has to fill. And then you also have a guy like Johnny Brodzinski, who was that kind of fifth center slash, bottom six winger. And now maybe he can potentially kind of jump into a role there. And, Brodzinski can, be that extra forward here and there, or, be in that bottom six kind of a role wherever he has to be. But if you have him as a primary winger and have him as that kind of, like I said, fifth centerman, that provides that depth to where now Brodzinski can kind of jump into that third line center role with Sam Bennett jumping up if you want. And then you obviously have a lot better kind of depth and overall just talent now, with obviously having a guy like Brodzinski as the fifth center, and now Sam Bennett goes up to the top six where he definitely can more than fit in. So I think that's where this team could really benefit from adding in a guy like Sam, and that's why I think it's an absolute must for this team to go out there and add in a true impactful third line center. And at moments this season, we saw a guy like Sam Carrick, who is, I would say, a very good fourth line center, but he had to make the jump up to that third line at moments, which ideally, you don't want to see that have to happen there. I think he is a good fourth line center. That's what he is. He's not a top 9 guy. He is a, fourth line center. That's what he is. And I think he plays that role quite well with the physicality and the solid two-way game. So having a guy like Sam Bennett come in now and Brodzinski as a kind of quote-unquote fifth centerman, that provides an amazing depth down the middle there, which I think this team has lacked for quite a few seasons now. So I think that's why adding a guy like Sam Bennett can really impact this team. And you also take into account his play style, which is exactly what this team needs to add in more of. And obviously we saw a bit of that added in with a guy like JT Miller, who definitely plays with some energy, some tenacity, some kind of physicality, obviously some toughness, some grit to his game there. Get other team's skin there a bit. He plays that kind of style, which Sam Bennett definitely does, and kind of takes that to a whole nother level. So that's where I think adding in a guy like Sam Bennett, you now have two very good kind of two-way physical centermen who I think can obviously do a job offensively. I mean, Sam Bennett is no slouch offensively, but also going to hold his own defensively and bring that toughness and physicality that this team has lacked for many, many seasons now. So I think adding him in there could definitely be pretty great for this team. And then you could also potentially have guys like maybe a Brett Berard, a Brendan Hoffman on the wing down there on that third line possibly as well, alongside a guy like Sam Bennett. At least one of those two guys there could possibly be a pretty good fit there on the third line there, where they can obviously help provide some offense, but also be a good defensive line maybe, and also just bring a lot of physicality, some toughness, some energy on that third line, while also just being a good complete line. So I think there's a lot of kind of options available, obviously, if you do add in a guy like Sam Bennett, but adding him in there on that third line, I just think would be quite incredible for this team. So taking a look now at the stats, and then we'll take a look at some kind of contract comparables and kind of what his actual deal could potentially look like if he does sign with the Rangers. So for his regular season stats from this past season, he ended up having 76 games played, 25 goals, 26 assists for 51 total points, and ended up having 18 of his 25 total goals at even strength, as well as 22 out of his 26 total assists at even strength as well. So ended up having 40 of his 51 points at even strength. It's not bad at all. And also ended up having a total of 145 hits and 45 block shots with a face-off win percentage of 46.2. Then you take a look at the playoffs, though, where so far this season, he's not doing too bad at all. As of recording this video, he has 4 games played, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. He's got a face-off win percentage of 39.5, so hasn't been too great, but last season was 51.4 in a much bigger sample size, so there's that, obviously. And he also has a whopping 16 hits in those 4 games played so far, so averaging 4 hits per game, which is not bad at all. Also has 4 block shots, so 1 per game, and he is a guy who consistently does kind of show up quite well in the playoffs, and all 4 of those points that he does have so far have been produced at even strength as well, which is quite nice to see. Then you take a look at last season there, where they won the Stanley Cup. He ended up having 19 games played, 7 goals, 7 assists, 14 points, 6 of his 7 goals at even strength, as well as 4 of his 7 total assists at even strength as well, which is not bad at all. Ended up having a 51.4 face-off win percentage, like I said, so much better than this small sample size of this season so far. Also had 87 hits in those 19 games played, which is pretty incredible. So definitely a very physical player. Even take a look at the previous season there. Ended up having 20 games played in the playoffs, 84 hits with 15 block shots, and also ended up having 15 points in those 20 games played. So this is a guy who consistently kind of produces in the playoffs and obviously brings a lot of physicality, will definitely get under the other team's skin there and can just provide a lot of energy and just all around kind of solid play. So in my opinion, I think this could be an incredible add for this team. And now taking a look at some contract comparables to kind of see what a potential new deal could look like for Sam Bennett. And first off here, we have Elias Lindholm, who this past July ended up signing a 7-year deal worth $7.75 million per season on average with the Boston Bruins. And he did sign that as a UFA as well, which is exactly the situation that Sam Bennett is going to be in. They're both centermen, and also, I think a guy like Elias is a solid player. Didn't have the best overall season this year, but I still think, when you take a look at kind of what he's done in the past there and kind of what deal he got, it definitely could be and should be a quite comparable deal for Sam Bennett. And if it was about the exact same thing, I wouldn't be too surprised at all. My guess for Sam Bennett's next deal is going to be something around that kind of 7-year mark for sure, which is the most you can give a UFA. But also, it's probably going to be something around, that 7.5, I think, to the kind of 8.25 mil mark. Something around there is my guess. I do kind of imagine probably the higher 7s to kind of low 8s is something around where he's going to probably get. Next up here, we've got Pavel Buchnevich, who ended up signing an extension. And so it is a little different here, but he ended up getting a 6-year deal worth $8 million per season, which again is around that kind of cap hit that I think we're going to see someone like Sam Bennett more than likely get. And he signed that deal back in July, as well as we've got Wyatt Johnston, who back in March ended up signing a 5-year deal with an $8.4 million cap hit. Now, this is definitely a different scenario with him being an RFA and him being kind of a rising potential star, obviously, but that just goes to show that I definitely don't see why there's any reason really to see a guy like Sam Bennett get into the kind of mid-8s there. I definitely don't see that happening, and it probably shouldn't happen, and if it does, that might be a bit of an overpay, but in my opinion, there's something around that kind of high 7 range could be a very good deal for someone like Sam Bennett. If you can get him around there, I definitely think that'd be worth it for the Rangers. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content, as I do post every single day. And of course, don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on today's video and on the Rangers potentially signing Sam Bennett in this upcoming offseason. Do you think he's a good target? And also, what kind of a contract do you want to see him get if the Rangers do sign him? Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.